SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey has been asked about Jaden Rashada at this point. If you're not familiar, the Georgia quarterback who is in the middle of a lawsuit with the University of Florida boosters and head football coach Billy Napier. I'll tell that quick story a little bit. I'll talk about Greg Sankey's comments here in this video and a little bit about how Georgia just does things differently than some other schools. I think that this NIL game is showing that you can be really successful through it, or it can really bite you in the backside if you don't handle it the right way. And I think a lot of schools are handling it very differently. I think that Georgia, in particular, handles it quite differently than schools like Florida State, for example, or Ohio State, or people that are spending a lot. I think that Georgia spends money, and that's a misconception. Georgia definitely is spending the money, and the boosters are definitely dishing out some money. But the concept that Georgia's going to go out there and hunt for, a $3 million player or a player that's demanding this or that in NIL, I just don't think that that's the case with Georgia. I don't think that they're going to spend a super significant amount. Like we've talked with sources and discussed this concept, and I just don't think Georgia's going to spend the super significant amount of money on one player as is like Florida committed to do that with Jaden Rashada. I was the one that pushed this story out. Just looking at some of these numbers, like first, I'm quoting myself at this point. First reported by ESPN, the claim is that Napier and the booster backed out of a $13.85 million agreement with Jaden Rashada. So, first of all, what is Caleb Williams' NFL contract? Because $13 million is kind of ridiculous for a college player, including a $24 million signing bonus. Like Caleb Williams, the number one overall pick, $38 million over the course of 4 years. So you think Jay Rashada, $13 million over the course of 4 years. Maybe we talk about Brock Bowers, who's making about $18 million over the course of 4 years. Right? Jaden Rashada is making like would have been, if he's promised this and he gets this payout, he would have been getting Brock Bowers type of money, right? Or maybe like the 20th pick in the NFL draft type of money. As a high schooler coming out of college, what was the other part of that agreement is that they were promised $1 million on the day that he signed with Florida. Well, all that doesn't happen. Jaden Rashada, he ends up leaving he ends up getting out of his letter of intent, and he ends up going to Arizona State. Instead, plays there for a year. He's in a backup for the most part, and then announces that he's going to transfer and picks Georgia. But Jaden Rashada, this just goes to show, all right, this is a 4-star prospect. This is a top 10 quarterback. Not necessarily, he's the number 6 quarterback according to 24/7 in this past class that included Arch Manning, Nico Iamaleava. Almost got his name right. And Rashada is number 6. So a class that included a couple of guys that are considered like bona fide future stars. Jaden Rashada is getting offered $13 million supposedly to come play there. That's ridiculous. What did it speak on? It speaks on a few things. It speaks on how college football is essentially a little bit of a bidding war on the recruiting trail right now, at least with certain players. And maybe Rashada is one of those players. And maybe Kirby won't like them. We'll find out. I think that it speaks to the desperation of the Florida Gators at this point in time. Hey, Georgia's beating up on you the past few years. I don't think that Florida's going to have a winning record this year. I'm calling my shot right now. I think that Florida team is that bad, and they have been for the last couple of years. I think that Billy Napier will be on his way out. I would not be surprised if Billy Napier is fired by the end of the season. I just think that that's the way things are going for Florida. So it shows, number 2, it shows just kind of what spot that the Gators are in. They're not in a good one. They're willing to dish out, or at least agree to, like Billy Napier, if he really is involved in this and he really is one of the ones that's promising those dollar figures and is supposed to be part of the transaction, and this is all true, then you're telling me that Billy Napier, you felt that this quarterback was worth $13 million over the course of his college career to come and help you. You had DJ Lagway on the way. You had Graham Mertz there. You've got quarterbacks that are either just as good as him, if not better, because this is a high school kid that wasn't even ranked as high as Lagway was. And you're expecting him for that's just insane. Not talking about it, but there were a couple players this year on the recruiting trail where Georgia would not give them up to $1 million, right? They would give them less than $1 million because they felt that they weren't going to dish out that much money, and that's through boosters or whoever it is that's paying this money. Georgia wasn't going to assist someone in that huge of a deal. I think that Carson Beck coming back for whatever he got, because I think he certainly earned millions in his deal with Georgia. All right, that's about what you'll see. A guy that is projected to be the Heisman winner, projected to be the best quarterback and potentially the number 1 overall pick in a year from now is drafted in the 2025 draft. That guy, probably mustered out a few million. The details on that, I actually did ask around about this the other day, and I couldn't quite get the exacts, but the details are a little unclear. But let's say it was $2 or $3 million. I think it's probably a little bit more. That's what the Heisman frontrunner was getting. So Florida's willing to dish out like 4, 5, 6 times that to a player that had never stepped foot on a college football field before. I think that goes to show the desperation. And we could talk about a couple other schools with that. Ryan Curley from Dawg Post, waiting long into the video to start talking to you about our newsletter and why I think you should sign up for it. Quick, easy, free, informative. Those are your quick hitting reasons why you should sign up for the Dawg Post newsletter. But most importantly, it's free. It's a way to support Dawg Post. Make sure you're checking that out. I've got that linked in the description below this video down there. If you're looking in the comments, you're looking in the description, you can easily check out our newsletter. Thank you to those who are already subscribed. Florida State is desperate now. 2 years in a row, 3 years in a row. Going after transfer quarterbacks. You get Jordan Travis, and then you get DJU. I blinked on DJU. Miami spending money. They went out and they spent money on Cam Ward. We'll see how he does, the former Washington State quarterback. And, of course, Ohio State. As good as Ohio State is, as much respect as I have for Ohio State, there has to be some truth that part of the reason why they reportedly spent $10 million or so in NIL to attain the roster that it did this year, well, those, that shows you. All right, you feel like you need to do that even though you're already one of the best teams in college football, and you go after Judkins. Let's get back to Greg Sankey, and I feel like I've lost it. But basically, he brushes it over. I've lost his quote, but he brushes it over a little bit. He says there's all sorts of lawsuits. This is not the first lawsuit that will involve a coach in the past year. It's not the last. It is the first one of this magnitude, I will say. But, Sankey kind of did the PR thing you would do and essentially just kind of swat the topic over, right? It's not a super huge deal. Here we go. I got it back. I'm not a fan of lawsuits. That's what I think. So he didn't have much to say. We have a legal system and people have rights to pursue what they view as grievances, and the legal system sorts that out. So he really didn't have any sort of statement that was groundbreaking, right? Greg Sankey pretty much just tells people how it is. Hey, this is not going to be the first or the last time. And what he said is true. But I do think cases like these with Jaden Rashada, which a Kirby Smart, I would bet money on it that he views this as a distraction to his quarterback room, a distraction to his team, if it is bleeding into that. Lucky for them, they're not really dealing with team stuff very much right now. This is the most dead period that there is. The team is not together all the time, outside of workouts and stuff like that. There's no real practice. There aren't as many meetings and everything like that. So it is a little bit more low-key right now. But I'm sure that Georgia and Kirby don't like what's going on there. This is a guy that could potentially be the starting quarterback for Georgia at some point in the next couple of years. At least that's probably a tiny part of the reason why they specifically brought him in. We know that they wanted another quarterback. They went out and they got him. He is a talented guy in his own right and should be able to compete for that at some point. You don't want a distraction, right? And something like this could take a while, because legal battles are not always quick, And that was always my joke about Florida State back in December when they were trying to appeal the college football playoff system. Thanks for watching.